So the Las Vegas Raiders made a massive trade yesterday for a defensive tackle in Thomas Booker. And today we're going to watch this guy's tape. We're going to watch what this guy has flashed in his most recent season with the Eagles. 182 snaps is what he took last season. But there's definitely some potential. There's definitely some upside. And given that the interior defensive line for the Raiders is really weak this season, we'll see what this guy can do, man. I'm excited to kind of get into this. So I want to start right away talking a little bit about Thomas Booker's pass rushing ability. Now, he's not a great pass rusher in the general senses. He's not like a guy who has fine-tuned his technique. He's still on the developmental side, especially as a pass rusher. But he has one thing in his tape that I think could translate into a good football player. And that's essentially going to be this guy's movement. It's going to be the quickness that this guy has flashed on tape. I'm going to show you guys a couple of examples. So on this first play here against the New York Giants, look at how quick he is in terms of the movement. Look at how fast he is as he's running this defensive line game. And he's basically in the backfield because of how fast he's able to kind of change direction. The guy is 6'3.5". And he is very fast. He should not move the way he essentially moves. And again, it's one of those things where you look at this guy and he's not super fine-tuned as a pass rusher, but he does have potential because of the fact that he's so quick and he moves really well. You know, when I look at a guy like Jalen Carter as an example, you know, Jalen Carter doesn't have a whole lot of pass rush moves. What makes Jalen Carter great as a defensive tackle is the movement he has. Right, when he lines up in front of, let's say, a center or a guard, that guy doesn't know where Jalen Carter's going to go. Carter will, you know, step left and then quickly jump back right. He'll look right, he'll quickly jump back to the inside. Right, he just moves really well, and then with that, he ends up utilizing a club move. Right, so he moves well, he clubs guys, and that's really all Jalen Carter does. But it works. It works for Jalen Carter, and it makes him one of the better defensive tackles in the NFL. With this guy, he has one of those two things kind of going for him, right? Which is he does do a good job moving. He does do a good job, you know, kind of making people miss a little bit. And it's not great, right? It's not like he's at the point where he's developed that club move that Jalen Carter has. I'm not trying to compare him to Carter, but I use Carter as an example because these guys were teammates, right? And the one thing we got to recognize is Howie Roseman has a type when he goes after defensive linemen. And you can just look over the years, right? Javon Hargrave did a really good job moving, and he was a good pass rusher. Milton Williams signed one of the highest paid, was one of the highest paid defensive tackles. He does a great job in the same sense that he's a really good mover and he's a good pass rusher. You look at Jalen Carter, you look at Thomas Booker, right? He kind of fits that same mold as well. And the Eagles even have another guy that's kind of up and coming, number 97. I think his last name's Ajomo. He looks really good as well. The Eagles have a type, right? And that's kind of my point, that Thomas Booker kind of fits that same mold where he's very fast and he's very quick. And he applies that in both pass rushing situations as well as against the run. Another thing that this guy does a really good job at is to utilize his power. One of the things you're going to see a lot with Thomas Booker is just how he's able to kind of go through people, right? The power he has on tape, the bull rushing ability. You look at this play here where he's going up against the right guard here. He's going to do a phenomenal job utilizing what is called the fork move. If you guys don't know what that is, he's basically going to use his left hand and he's going to lift up or remove the leverage of that guard. So although he is bull rushing, and the bull rush is part of it, he does fork the guy's arm upwards. That's it's a way to kind of bull rush to remove leverage. And you'll see this on tape, over and over again, that as he bull rushes, he does a good job forking people's arms, removing leverage. He did a great job against Trey Smith on this play in the Super Bowl, where he was able to kind of get through him. Now, he doesn't cleanly get to the quarterback, but it's still a pretty nice job being able to go through an all-pro guard, one of the best guards in the NFL, and generating a little bit of power. But again, you see the bull rush. You see that power that Thomas Booker has. And, to me, it's a really nice job by him to be able to utilize power. There's other plays as well where we kind of get some pressure on the quarterback. If I did not already say this, you see on this play right here, he's going to end up getting chipped by the running back. If I haven't said this already, I'm going to go ahead and just say this. This guy played 182 snaps this past season. Of the 182, 87 were pass rushing snaps. But even of the 87, he was double teamed 35 times. So 35 of his 87 pass rushing opportunities, he was double teamed. So he only had 52 true one-on-one pass rushing opportunities this most recent season, which is why statistically you're not going to see this guy have 10 sacks, right? He only had 52 plays where he had a true one-on-one opportunity. And of course, even that doesn't actually include, plays that are not like one or three-step drops, right? Where the quarterback's going to get the ball out super quickly. It doesn't include like screen plays or end arounds where it's like a shovel pass forward. So it technically counts as a pass, but really it's a run. So 52 is just the number of one-on-ones that this guy had, right? So he hasn't had a whole lot of, real life snaps, right? So for the Raiders, you are getting a guy who is, quote unquote raw because he just hasn't played a whole lot. But the one takeaway I want you guys to take from this is, as a pass rusher, although he's a little bit on the rawer side and he's not going to have a whole lot of moves, he does have quickness. And never overlook that having quickness, having good movement does translate into a good football player if you just kind of stick with the guy. Adam Butler's a great example of this, right? Adam Butler came into the NFL, wasn't really all that good his first, 2-3 years. He flashed a little bit, but part of that was also because he was a good mover, right? He moved really, really well. And by the time he turned 30 years old, now he's with the Raiders. This guy's actually a good pass rusher now. He's actually a pretty consistent run defender as well. And he's a pretty good football player, right? If we're being honest. But he wasn't that when he was 25 years old. And that's what Thomas Booker is now. And that's kind of what the Raiders, are essentially bringing in, right? One of the things, with certain guys as pass rushers is, if you're slow as a pass rusher, especially at defensive tackle, you're probably not going to ever be a good, consistent pass rusher, right? If you look at guys, as an example, Jonathan Hankins is a great example of this. Hankins, was really built to be like a nose tackle. He was built to be a run-first defender. He wasn't a guy that was going to consistently get after the quarterback. So Jonathan Hankins is a great example of a guy where pretty much within the first 2 or 3 years, you knew this guy was never going to develop because he just didn't have the movement in his game, right? He didn't have the quickness, the suddenness to beat guys. Thomas Booker has some of that in his tape, right? Adam Butler, another guy, he had that early on in his tape. Jalen Carter has had that in his tape. And I think guys that are quick, Kalijah Kancey is another example at the D tackle position. You can pretty much see it right away if a guy's going to be a good player down the line, if he'll develop. And I think with a guy like Booker, there is some potential, there's some upside, and we'll see if he can develop as a pass rusher. But as I said, as a run defender, this guy's a pretty damn good run defender at this point. And I think for the Raiders, he'll still end up playing this season just solely because he's a good run defender. I talked about how quick he is, right? How fast he is. And that translates to the run game. There's multiple plays where he has a guy that's trying to reach block, get in front of him, and he just straight up shoots the gap and ends up beating them to the spot. There's this play here where it's a zone run towards the left. Now, the play still picks up like 5 yards, but he does his job where he's able to get in front of this guard. He's able to set himself up in front of it. And the running back doesn't have any sort of cutback lane because Booker is chasing this play from the backside. So he does his job, right? He defeats the offensive lineman in front of him. And truth be told, it's a terrible job by the offensive lineman. Because had Booker gotten cut off, the running back would have had a cutback option. There's other plays as well. You have Cody Mock, who I think is a really, really, really good guard in the NFL. He has Booker lined up in the 3 technique, and Cody Mock's going to try to reach him, right? He's going to try to get in front of this guy. And you see Booker just kind of fight right through it, and then he ends up blowing the play up. So you can see that Booker does a really good job against zone runs because he's quick. So the quickness, the suddenness, the movement does translate in both pass rushing and run defensive situations. So I think Booker right away will show us a little bit of that run defense ability. And we know we don't really need run defenders, right? But I also want to just kind of state, would you rather have a guy that's only a run defender, is never going to develop as a pass rusher, or would you rather have a guy like Booker who has actual upside as a pass rusher, right? So, once again, just kind of getting back into the run defense. This guy's quick. He's very sudden. He's explosive, really gets uphill. And he makes a lot of plays just by being quick and explosive. And you can just see it, over and over and over again, the flashes that this guy has on tape. How he's able to get in the backfield, how he's able to be disruptive, how he's able to kind of, cause disruption. There's other good plays from this guy as a run defender as well. There's one play that's kind of trended on social media a little bit, where he does a really good job against Chris Lindstrom, one of the best guards in the NFL. He basically stands him right up. Just a really good job staying within your run fit. What they don't tell you when they show you these plays and it goes viral on social media is that Chris Lindstrom has a job on this play. His job is to cut the two-eye technique defensive tackle off, which happens to be Booker on this play. So Chris Lindstrom's job is to get in front of Booker and essentially create a cutback lane for the running back if, that could be an option for the running back. But the fact that Booker recognizes that, hey, this is my run fit, this guy's trying to get in front of me, he's going to get his hands on Lindstrom. He's going to start pushing him back, and he stays in that run fit, and there's nowhere for the running back to go, essentially, right? And again, leverage, right? He does a really, really good job staying low. He utilizes those hands. He locks it out. To me, that right there is something you want from your defensive tackle, right? Quick, he's quick, he moves well, but then he's also strong. He plays with great leverage. And the leverage aspect of it, I cannot overstate. This guy plays really, really, really low. And again, I keep getting back to there's potential and there's upside. And that's because there is, right? This guy has real potential. He can actually develop into a good football player for the Raiders. But it is, he is still on the developmental side, right? We're not trading for this guy in day one. He's not a starting caliber player. But we'll see what he can kind of develop into. I think the one inconsistency this guy does have is sometimes against double team blocks. On one play, he'll go through a guy, he'll stay super low, right? He'll use his leverage, he'll stand a guy up, he'll take the double team on, he'll fight through it, he'll blow a play up, right? And you look at it and say, damn, that's a really good job. But then on another play when he gets double teamed, he's just blown off the line of scrimmage. He's pushed back 5 yards. To me, that's inconsistent. You don't have to make the play when you're double teamed, but you got to hold the double team, right? You can't let those guys push you backwards. You can't go back 4, 5, 6 yards. You got to hold your ground. You got to hold your gap. You got to hold that double team block. And sometimes it's just inconsistent when he is double teamed. So that's going to be the big thing he's going to have to work on, in my opinion, if he wants to be, a long-term good football player. And again, this is one of those things where we got to recognize he's still young. He still has potential, and he has room to grow into a better football player. So if he struggles with certain things, that's okay, right? You're not trading for a guy that, is expected to be a day one starter. This guy's you're essentially swapping a player in Corey Bennett that probably wasn't going to make the team anyways for a guy with a little bit of potential and upside at a position of need. The Raiders' defensive line is absolutely terrible, specifically on the inside. Is absolutely terrible right now. Booker, truth be told, has probably, if not just as good, if not better tape than pretty much every other D tackle we have minus Adam Butler, right? And this guy didn't even really play for the Eagles. He's like the 4th or 5th guy, which kind of just talks about how bad our interior defensive line is. But, I just kind of go back to the point that, the Raiders need help. We weren't going to keep Corey Bennett anyways. He wasn't going to really play if he even made the team. And bring in a guy like Booker, a guy who some of our scouts that work in the front office, they've worked with Booker. They've studied Booker. They've seen Booker day to day for a number of years. They think this guy could potentially develop for the Raiders. I think it's a great trade for the Raiders. We'll see how it kind of works out. Lastly, love this guy's effort. To me, effort's one of those things where every player controls how much effort they want to put in. You'll see this guy chasing plays like 10, 15 yards. Where he's away from, right, 10, 15 yards. He'll chase a play 30, 40 yards downfield. And sometimes he'll even make the play. And I think for the Raiders, if you can bring effort, something you can control yourself, there's going to be, a role for those type of guys. A guy that can defend the run, right, which is kind of all we have anyways at the D tackle position. A guy who, if he gets one-on-one opportunities, which I do think Thomas Booker will have a lot more, given he'll probably be the 4th guy on the defensive line anyways that an O-line is going to kind of worry about. Maybe he develops into something, right? So we'll see what ends up happening. I hope you guys enjoyed this film breakdown. It was a quick one. It was a little bit different. Just trying different things, do the talking head film breakdown versus let me just screen record and pull up the pen and just kind of edit and do those type of things. We'll see how we kind of continue these film breakdowns as we go forward. But I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a comment down in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.